Hello and welcome, one and all, to another episode of the A2theK Wrestling Show. I am Carl, joined as always by Anthony, and as you can expect, as always, another fantastic show this week, Anthony.
You're quite right there, Carl. It's going to be a hell of a show this week. As always, we're going to bring you the Ringside Report, in which we're going to cover the latest news and rumours from the world of wrestling this week. We'll also be talking about the four big shows being Raw, NXT, Dynamite, and SmackDown, in which we'll cover that in This Week in Wrestling. And as we like to do every week, Carl, we've got a nice unique segment for everyone this week. Tell the people what we've got in store this week, Carl.
It's unique. It's unique, all right. It's not that good, though. It's the Elimination Chamber results. Hey.
Hey, I got some
bitching
to
do. In fact, the segment should just be called Bitching with Carl and Anthony about the Elimination Chamber, because, we got some things on our mind. But, needless to say, it's still going to be a one fun time for all.
Indeed. So we'll kick off if we could, Carl, with the Ringside Report. So I'll give a quick run through of the headlines for those who want to go, not interested, skip. We have, coming up tonight on the Ringside Report, Kenny Omega believing that AEW and WWE may work together in the future. We have Bayley and her longtime fiancé, Aaron Solo. Unfortunately,
you may say he's riding solo.
We have...
Sorry.
I don't even know how to follow that one. We have CM Punk set to star in a new horror film. We have Lana commenting on the Bobby Lashley storyline. We have Bo Dallas preparing for life after wrestling with Liv. May have wrote that slightly wrong. After wrestling with Liv Morgan. We'll cover that. We have Paige hoping to come out of retirement. We have Paul Heyman taking a shot at Raw. We have a further update on the number of brain damage lawsuits from ex-WWE stars being taken out with WWE. We have Zelina Vega officially now being a free agent, and is she heading to AEW? We have WWE being denied several trademarks. It's not like them. It's not like them at all. And lastly, Carl, we have an update on the AEW video game.
We certainly do.
All that coming up right now.
Oh, yeah. As well, I was just laughing when you went through them. We really probably should rename some of these. There was the one with Paul Heyman takes a shot at Raw. And I just imagine him just going, Sambuca. But anyway.
Yeah, he's getting wasted. It's not a prediction. It's a spoiler.
But to kick off the news this week is we've got an update from Kenny Omega, and he might got a bit mad because, as we know, of late the Forbidden Door has been opened. So we have seen AEW work with the likes of Impact, we've seen them work with New Japan, NWA, but Kenny Omega, the mad bastard, reckons that the potential of a WWE relationship could very well happen. So he's been quoted as saying that people change on a day-to-day basis. So he said he'd spoken at length with Triple H. I don't know when that was, so I'm interested by that. But at the time he was speaking to him, he felt that Triple H really understood a lot of the thought process that he was bringing to the table. That the fact that he was not only looking to unite the world of professional wrestling and all of that, but to kind of do it in a way that doesn't kind of hurt any company. So yeah, it's an interesting one. He basically has said that he thinks that potentially they're open to it, especially the likes of Triple H. He said him still being one of the boys and understanding it from the side of a wrestler. He believes that there's a part of him that just wants what's best for fans, and so therefore
I can well believe that, because we've had stuff in the past which a lot of people are going to go, oh, it's far-fetched, it's not going to happen, and not anytime soon, and they might be right, but bear in mind we had I want to say it was Triple H, but we had someone from WWE making a comment about they're willing, they're open for business when it comes to working with other places. Never specifically said AEW, but they've always made that sort of clear that they're not restrictive on it. So that combination of both being willing, or in some form both being willing to work with each other, you think, well, what's stopping it?
No, definitely. I think it's a weird one though, because I think they were open to it when they could potentially buy them companies. Because if you think about it, they started working with Progress, they started working with Evolve, and then before you know it, they're all gone.
I like that. Yeah. We're open to working with Evolve.
Yeah, well,
12 months
I mean,
later.
Triple H was always open to working with Evolve. It was a mystery at the time, but
Yeah.
no,
Did he
wasted on
pull
you.
us pull the
Yeah,
strings?
no one
I
sees.
don't.
No one sees.
No. I tried to do the next line and I couldn't remember it.
Just it's. I mean, it's Motorhead, isn't it? Just be like, meh, and then it's fine. It's all good. But no, interesting one. I mean, will we ever see a time where AEW and WWE work together? Kenny Omega coming out and saying that he truly believes it's possible is a very interesting one. And I don't want to obviously shit on Vince or anything like that. I can't see it happening while Vince is alive, to put it as bluntly as possible. So does that mean as soon as like
Thing is, there are a ton of logistics, even if Vince was up for it, because for a company looking at WWE when they're trying to build a star, the mission for everyone is make that person look strong, as we've from Punk quoted a million times over Roman Reigns. But my point being, if they're trying to make one of their stars, and then AEW are there and the heat's on from the public to go, well, let's have this person face this person, there's going to always be this big battle of who goes over who. Do you know what I mean? And then, are we going to end up with just a ton of screwy finishes because no promotion is willing to let their star take the loss? It's there's a ton of difficulty to work out there, even if they were open to the discussion.
I mean, I can't really believe it being a possibility, because obviously when AEW went live with Dynamite, then NXT went up against it properly on network, same time slot, everything. So I don't know. It doesn't really sound like the type of company who's open to a working relationship. They clearly wanted to bury AEW, and maybe just the fact that they're getting trounced every week in the ratings, they're seeing an opportunity to, pull themselves out of the gutter. I don't know, but I mean, I'd be amazed if it happened. It'd be.
I mean, at the same time, because it's interesting, because it's Kenny saying they're willing to work with them. So WWE, arguably, haven't made any such comments, not specifically to AEW anyway. So, like you say, it'd make more sense if they were like, okay, let's work together, because they're actually not squashing them like they wanted to. But it's not even going that way, is it really? Like you say, it's you can very much see Vince being like, nope, not
well, that's
interested.
it. The thing that kind of makes it seem almost a reality is the fact that he said he'd spoken at length with Triple H, and obviously we know that Triple H is, he's got a very different outlook and view on the wrestling business than Vince, I would say. And the stuff he's done with NXT has been great as well. So maybe we will see something down the line, but will it be soon? I don't know.
Sadly, I don't think it will be. So the next one, Carl. So a lot of people may or may not know that AEW's Aaron Solo, yeah, I'm saying that right, was engaged to one WWE's Bayley. Now, quite recently, Solo himself took to Twitter and issued a statement saying basically that it's been an extremely difficult decision to make. Pam, who is Bayley, obviously, and I have come to the realization that we have a completely different idea on what we want of our future to look like. Because of this, we feel that it would be in our best interest to call off our engagement and end our relationship. He went on to say that we have a lot of great memories together and we'll forever cherish. We've agreed to remain friends and we'll continue to support each other in our careers and lives. And then ended with, we ask that you please respect our privacy on this matter, which, in all fairness, we've probably failed to do so far, Carl.
Our bad.
But, yeah, sadly, yeah. But obviously, it's gone out publicly, and it's sad news for the pair of them. It's nice that they've sort of dealt with it so much, I suppose. But yeah, there you go. She's a free agent in a different way.
Yeah, and she's also called Pam, which is interesting.
Yeah, quite surprising. I don't know what name I would have given her, but
I mean, the new haircut maybe screams Pam. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think it sounds, and this is me purely speculating, but it would sound along the lines of them seeing very different futures. I always kind of immediately think of kids. Like, is that, what has been the stumbling block? Maybe, Aaron wants to have kids sooner rather than later. Bayley's killing it as a, single star at the minute on.
I mean, this is the thing, because while it is speculative, you could understand that kind of thing, because it's like that is something that puts their career on hold.
Yeah, exactly.
No two ways about it.
So interesting,
No.
but obviously it's it's good that they're staying kind of amicable through it all and stuff, and fair play to the pair of them for handling it so well.
Indeed.
So the next one, CM Punk, old punky boy. So he's gonna be a movie star. His name in lights, damn it. But no, he is going to be in a horror movie. It's not a highlight reel of his time in the UFC. I kid. But no.
It's not. It's a dramatic retelling of his career in WWE.
Definitely not either of those things. But no, so AMC have teamed up with Shudder to bring us Jacob's wife. There she is. But no, so that is a new horror movie that's going to be starring CM Punk that has been picked up. Basically, it was one that they've obviously filmed, and we're hoping that they get someone to kind of bring it to life. And yeah, it's looks like that's going to be the case. So AMC are involved, Shudder are involved, and we are going to see CM Punk on the big screen in a horror movie known as Jacob's Wife. So yeah, I think it's going to be debuting at the SXSW Film Festival. And will be coming pretty soon, to be fair. It looks like it's going to have a theatrical debut and be available on demand as early as April 16th of this year. So, will you watch it?
I mean, we're going to have to watch it. I'll be watching it.
I mean, I don't know about you.
Probably not.
If it's a horror movie, I'm going to be on the straight edge of my seat. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, that is the news on CM Punk.
No, I mean, like, there's a few wrestling films we probably need to catch up on here, Carl, because I've still not watched the David Arquette one, which looks interesting too.
Do you know? So. I haven't either. I think we spoke a while ago about doing almost. Obviously, we did a segment a while back, quite early on in our podcasting life of A2theK, the movies, where we spoke about some of these films, and I think we said off the back of that we should do.
And I think that was because we were covering a lot of like films we enjoyed as kids that were wrestling based, didn't we? But I mean, we could relive that, but look at a specific film that involves or is about wrestling.
I'd be down. Yeah, I know we want it, but do you want it? Let us know, guys. Let us know.
Love it. So my next one, Carl, is interesting for a couple of reasons. Now, obviously, the headline was that Lana was speaking out on the Bobby Lashley, the infamous Bobby Lashley storyline, and there's some other elements to it that I want to discuss with you. So, firstly, she was interviewed by TalkSport. You may have heard of them, and one of the ones that was talked about was the Bobby Lashley one. So we'll cover that. And I don't mean this in a mean way, but like we look at that sort of storyline as a little bit cringe, and like from our perspective, and obviously we're massively skewed by our perspective because we talk to each other and then ignore any other criticism. So she was talking about this storyline. Essentially, was quite proud of the work they did, and likened it to the sort of soap opera elements. Even mentioned like I think Grey's Anatomy as like or Scandal as that that sort of storyline, and sort of ran through the in brief the work she had to do, and she had to deal with a lot of like essentially a lot more acting than I suppose she had previously. Then obviously touched on the elements of like the cyberbullying and grief that she was getting for playing like a villain character, but similarly still enjoyed that villain character. So despite a lot of the negative that came from the storyline, she seemed to really enjoy doing that sort of story, which is interesting given how they've booked her since. But the other one I wanted to mention, Carl, unless you want to talk about Bobby Lashley for a little bit.
No,
you good? Okay. She also talked about a recent feud with Nia, and now I'm curious, have you read about this at all?
I don't think so.
No. So she's not offering any specific disrespect to Nia, but she mentions that she's a strong, powerful woman, and she knows that she's like when she gets in the ring with her, she's going to be sore the next day, and like those sort of, she's saying like legitimately anything could happen when you're in there with her. Do you know what I mean? And she felt those power bombs and she felt those table shots, and she even referred back to what happened with Kyrie. And I found it interesting because I know she's not specifically saying that, and she was, by all means, she was like, but she's basically, I love it. I love doing that kind of thing, and it's an adrenaline rush and all this. But for me, I was a bit like, is that her like really sort of declaring that Nia's an unsafe worker? Because you shouldn't be worrying about taking a bump, surely, because it's meant to be handled professionally. I know it's not going to be totally painless, but it almost sounded a bit like she's like, well, I know I'm going to get hurt. I'm about to go and get hurt. That's, I don't know. It was just an interesting one. Like, she never offered any specific disrespect, but it was just a bit interesting, especially when she referred to the Kyrie incident, which obviously that was a legit botch. She was almost concussed.
Interesting to note that she had waited to the end of their feud to bring this up, because I don't think you would like to get back in the ring with her after this. But yeah, I mean, from everything we've heard of anyone who's worked with Nia, like, she's pretty much hurt everybody that's ever been in the fucking ring with her. And I know she gets a bit of a pass because she's like related to The Rock and all this kind of stuff, but I've been critical of her several times on the show, and I just think that there's a way to do things, and I think you should pride yourself on being someone who can make it look as legitimate and real as possible, but making sure that whoever gets in that ring with you is super protected. And for whatever reason, Nia has just had one too many for me, where you have to question whether she appreciates that and has the respect for the people she's in the ring with. So, it might just be a complete freak, set of incidents where that has happened, and it's unfortunate, but I don't know. I think there's just something about the amount of them that just kind of makes you think, she's not wrong.
It certainly does.
But the next one, maybe slightly more lighthearted, and maybe one which may surprise a few, because it surprised me. It turns out, if you believe, you can get Liv Morgan. Why did I not know this any sooner?
Yeah. I know, that's not surprising. Like, there's disrespect. I want to say it's surprising, I suppose, because we don't see him on screen at all, and you're not even aware of them interacting in any sort of way. So it's like, oh,
no, I'm going to say it's surprising.
You know what I mean?
But basically, so there's two points to this piece of news. So firstly, Bo Dallas is still employed by the WWE, but he's not even there. So they don't even invite him to the show. He's not, sat there catering and waiting. He's not there, but he's getting paid.
Yeah, they're so sure they've not got anything for him right now.
So it does baffle me why he hasn't been released, if that is the case. Obviously, they've released his dad, Mike Rotunda, and unless there's something with Bray or Wyndham, just saying that, if you do anything to...
I think it's weird, the lack of Bray lately, to be honest.
Very, very weird. But I've got some thoughts on that, which we'll come to. But yeah, so the first part was I was just baffled at the fact that Bo Dallas is still there, still getting paid, and just isn't any part of the show whatsoever. Like, why? Like, what dirty little secret has he got about Vince? Like, I'd love to know.
So what we're saying is Bo Dallas is in a relationship with Liv Morgan and gets paid to...
I mean, he's living everyone's best life, is pretty much what we're saying. But there's... It definitely does
make you a believer.
But the second part of the story, so firstly there's that, but then we also found out from Uncle Dave, Mr. Meltzer, has said that basically he is planning for a life after wrestling already, so he's not being used on TV. He knows that, even though he's still getting paid. He started to basically take real estate or something, get like a real estate license or something like that. But also he has started working on a farm, and a farm that he shares with Morgan. So obviously everyone was like, well, who's Morgan? What do you mean? Is it Liv Morgan? Which was then later confirmed to be, well, actually Liv Morgan's got a farm. So yeah, so Liv Morgan, Bo Dallas are a thing. So I'm not too sure when it was that Bo got divorced. I don't think it was super long ago. So this obviously could be quite a new romance or whatever, but interesting that it's going quite quick, in the sense that they've got a farm together and they're both taking, real estate courses and things like that, and trying to start up a family real estate business is pretty quick, if that is the case. But
isn't Not following the Undertaker's footsteps there.
Yeah, maybe.
But I mean, you wonder sometimes. He's planning for a life after WWE. It's like, and what's your source? Well, I'm going to a DIY shop, so he's planning something. It's like, well, we know he's at the farm or been to the farm. Well, nah, joke. Obviously, like you say, it's been the relationship, I believe, has been confirmed. But no, interesting. It's a shame that he's kind of, if it's believed, it's a shame that he's sat there planning for his life after wrestling, because it's almost like because of the way the situation is for him right now. It's like, well, are you not expecting to be back in wrestling anytime soon? Because I do think he's a talented guy. He could have, with the right storyline or the right gimmick, because let's face it, him along with Curtis Axel and everyone else involved in the social outcasts they were handed some really shitty storylines over the years, and it's hard to pull out of that.
No, yeah, I think that's fair. It is a weird one because it's not like he's like super old or anything either. So maybe he's had enough. Maybe he's burnt out. Who knows? But yeah, I'm sure they could definitely find something. He's got a ton of charisma.
I mean, can't get more burnt out than his brother.
Oh, yeah, crispy.
That was a yeah. For our audience, that was a joke on the Inferno match. I'm not saying Bray's burnt out.
No.
Gotta spell these things out, Carl.
But a weird one, I would say. So on the one hand, well done, Bo. Like, bravo, my friend. On the other hand, it's a shame, obviously, that they don't have anything for him to a point where he is contemplating just giving up the business altogether, which, if they haven't used him in God knows how long, but they're still paying him, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me, especially if he's not going to be a trainer or something like that. If he's planning to get out the business, something doesn't add up. But yeah, fascinating one. The more you know.
Indeed. The more you know. So, Carl, as you, along with me, along with many, many people, were made up when Edge made his return again. And it's great to see him back in the ring. It's great to see him in such great shape and on form and willing to wrestle all these matches. And it kind of reminds me of a few years back when we got to see Daniel Bryan surprise us all and come out of retirement and, wow the world again, get back into matches and just, again, another incredible star. Both of them very recently been on a pay-per-view. It's amazing. Now, this has also inspired one, WWE's own Paige, who is basically, and it's a very subtle hint, so there's not a lot of not a lot of information to this, but WWE on Fox tweeted out a picture of both Daniel Bryan and Edge talking, with the quotes "retirement," hashtag SmackDown, and Paige actually responded to this with a fingers crossed and 1 day. Now this was responded to by Beth Phoenix saying you deserve it. So there's nothing to say, oh, she's done this, she's been to see doctors, this is very feasible, etc. But it just shows you that there is, she certainly is still hoping that she could come out of retirement. And let's face it, at this moment in time, with what we've seen, it's not totally unrealistic or surprising. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we've seen it with both Edge and Daniel Bryan, who they're great examples because they were both sort of like that's that, you're done kind of thing, and look where they are now. So, I hold out hope. I think I really felt bad on her because it was like she came back, she made a big comeback, didn't really get a lot of momentum, and then it's bad injury on a house show, and that's what takes it out. Like, I'd love to see her just have a run just so that she could sort of go out on her terms, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel so sorry for Paige because she was one of the big trailblazers in making, the whole women's movement, from the Divas belts to the women's title, and everything that kind of women's wrestling has become over the last couple of years. And she was a pivotal part of that, and then just didn't even get to play a part in it really for once it actually got put over the line. You hear all about the 4 horsewomen and Charlotte and Becky and Sasha and Bayley, and Paige absolutely deserved to be up there with them because of everything she did, and such a shame to see her career get cut so short. She's so young, and I know she's been doing it since she's like 14, but she's so young, especially in the wrestling business, and just absolutely devastating for her to have to give up on that dream. So if there's even a glimmer of hope where she'll be cleared again to get back in the ring in a safe way, similar to Daniel Bryan or Edge, then yeah, absolutely got my fingers crossed for her, because I think that'd be amazing. She can go out on her own terms, and it's the least she deserves for everything she's done, I'd say.
No, totally agree.
So the next one is it's a bit of a short and sweet one, quite lighthearted. Is Paul Heyman. So he was on Talking Smack this week, and he just took a little bit of a jibe at Raw, and it was just hilarious, to be honest. Knowing his history of being the creative director on that brand and everything that he's gone through, then ultimately he was fired from that role. And Bruce was put in charge, and he was told to concentrate on his in-ring career. I believe it was quoted at the time. But yeah, Heyman was on Talking Smack, and he was basically quoted as saying, there is no SmackDown without Roman Reigns. There is no Raw. Well, there shouldn't be a Raw anyway. I mean, have you watched it lately? And as someone who has to watch it religiously on a weekly basis for this show, he's got a fucking good point, to be fair. SmackDown has certainly been better for the most part on most weeks. So I just thought it was a nice little...
It's funny how he's been removed from Raw, right? But he is probably one of the bigger reasons that SmackDown's doing so well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Is his work with Roman Reigns is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So irony is strong with this one, but I don't know. I just thought it was hilarious, and fair play to Paul, because I feel like he was very unfairly treated when he was kind of given his marching orders from that role, and it's so unfair to expect Bruce to be able to cover both Raw and SmackDown as well. So I'm not even shitting on him from a creative standpoint, but Heyman tried a lot of new things, a lot of new talent, and went one direction, and then it suddenly just got, we went through a bit of a weird spell with what the fuck was it called, Raw Underground and stuff like that for a bit, and then it's managed to find some footing of late, but whether it's better than when Heyman was in charge, who knows? I mean, I wasn't a fan of Aleister Black, and we don't see him anymore, so he wasn't always right, but. Yeah, I don't know. I just think.
I mean, he's on SmackDown. He could be a Paul Heyman guy still.
Could be. But yeah, so small bit of news, but one that I just thought was hilarious. Yeah, have you watched it lately? Raw sucks. Quoted from Paul Heyman.
Nice. My next one is not as cheerful, but is another sort of a quick update. So for anyone keeping track of the large number of lawsuits since WWE's way, from previous WWE superstars, we're talking back in the 80s and 90s, notable names being Jimmy Snuka or the Road Warrior Animal or even Viscera, and the like. And obviously these were being fought both before the likes of Snuka and Road Warrior passed away. But these were all in relation to the concussions, and obviously this whole thing that's been happening alongside the NFL and the like as well. Now, WWE have had some of the lawsuits in the past, or several lawsuits, should I say, dismissed in lower federal courts. But this one is just a bit of an update in respect of a large number of these, and in fact more and more are coming onto the fold, I believe, are appealing this, and it's actually going to go to the Supreme Court. The interesting thing with it is the likes of the NFL, and apologies if I'm quoting the numbers wrong, but the likes of the NFL have actually settled a lot of their lawsuits, and I believe they settled the lawsuits to the tune of about $1 billion. And WWE they've not settled anything or attempted to, from what I gather. But the interesting thing is the argument seems to be stronger with WWE because, as an example, what happens in the NFL is not predetermined, it's not planned. So it's accidental, and you can argue responsibility and safety and so on like that, which is what they did and why it was settled out. So I won't get into the NFL side of things. But the fact that WWE have gone, we've planned these spots, and that's what results in your concussion, from what I'm reading, makes that argument stronger when it comes to this appeal to the Supreme Court. So it sounds like this might end up being a big big thing for WWE to try and fight, assuming they try and fight it, or they don't just sort of look at it and do the right thing, in all honesty. But yeah, I found that sort of bit of information from this interesting. Not only that it's sort of being appealed to Supreme Court, but the fact that the strength in the argument comes from the fact that you've told them to do that spot and that's what's resulted in that injury. It makes a lot of sense.
No, definitely, honestly. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a firm believer it was a different time and we were less educated then, but at the end of the day, people still suffered injuries and they should look after them. So,
I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, but it speaks volumes that a lot of the people who are in this lawsuit are no longer with us. You got Jimmy Snuka, you got Road Warrior Animal, you've got a plethora of other talent who just aren't with us anymore. And
yeah. I think apologies for not knowing, but I believe Viscera as well.
Yeah, Viscera's gone as well, unfortunately. So, it's just that speaks volumes in itself. And I'm not saying that it's all due to their concussions or anything like that, but obviously you've got to look into it from from a factual basis. Is they've all gone way too soon. But I think the big sticking point with all these things with WWE is always going to be the fact that they are independent contractors. And that's the way they've got out of so many of these things. Is and you've got all these people saying, well, we should unionize and all this kind of stuff, and that would be the worst thing ever for WWE because there's so many benefits and so many just rights that these performers don't really get, and they are putting themselves on the line every day, 300 days a year pretty much, back before COVID times. And yeah, it's a crazy thing. You see that they are putting themselves on the line. They are in danger all this time, and it's a hard one, really.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
So, how do we lighten it up? With a little bit of Zelina Vega. That's how. So, the good news. So, obviously, it was a very sad time when we saw Zelina Vega released from her WWE contract a while ago. But the good news is that she is now considered a free agent as of February the 11th. So there was a lot of speculation. Yeah, so 90 days no compete is now gone. So she's a full free agent. She can go anywhere, do whatever she wants. But the interesting thing that got a bit of speculation was on February 17th. So, 6 days, like less than a week after she was officially a free agent, she put a tweet out saying, "Today is going to be a good day." And that just happened to be on a Wednesday, I think it was. And everybody was like, she's going to show up on Dynamite. And we're connecting all the dots. Now, she didn't. But that doesn't necessarily mean that she won't. So, no. That could have meant a number of things. So it could still be that she is going to, she's doing like a vignette for Dynamite. She's doing, photo shoots, something, anything. But she's very much being open to that. She wants to return to the wrestling world in some capacity for any promotion. And I think, she was doing a stellar job in that time, the COVID times of no crowds and stuff with trying to get Garza over, trying to get Andrade over, even Theory. And she was, for a large bulk of time on Raw, was carrying that fucking show.
Yeah.
So she's going to be a massive asset to any company who comes in for it.
I totally agree. I think it's crazy that WWE didn't understand that because she did bring a lot to them at a very difficult time. And yeah, I know like Garza and Andrade ultimately fell flat, really, but it's not down to the work that was put in. You know what I mean? It's a crying shame. But hopefully,
that's it. I mean, to be fair, I think WWE knew. I think it was a case of her talking about unionizing and being adamant that she wanted to have an OnlyFans and a Twitch channel and all these things that are taboo in today's WWE product, where they knew what a talent she was, but they had to set an example. And hopefully, I say hopefully, I think it is going to come back and bite them in the ass, because they've let a fantastic talent go, and she can talk. She's got a good look. She's decent in the ring as well.
Yeah, and let's face it, AEW weren't willing to miss a shot. They made it very clear that their talent can engage with third parties.
So, it seems like that would be a good home for her. But Yeah, I mean, I would be super down to see her show up in AEW. I was a bit disappointed we didn't get to see her announced on the tournament bracket, to be honest. I think I mentioned last week I was looking for a couple of surprises.
Would have been a
But,
good way to bring it in.
fair play. We didn't see
Yeah.
that, but hopefully we do get to see her show up in some capacity, whether that be a manager, whether it be, any kind of role in the business. I think she'd knock it out the park. So, yeah, hope to see Zelina Vega, Thea Trinidad real soon.
So, Carl, next one. No segue because I don't know, can't do one. Is WWE have been denied several
Not again.
trademarks. Can you believe that? It's not like them at all. So, this is something that's happened to them in the past, but it's interesting because it almost feels a bit like. I'm surprised there hasn't been more resistance from WWE to this, but essentially they've gone to file trademarks for names. I'll pick two that jump out at me. There's a number of names, but we have Dominic Mysterio and Chelsea Green, both names that jump out at me in this particular run of denied trademark claims. And the reason for all of these trademarks is that the individual did not sign the application, and the application does not include written consent personally signed by this individual. Now, that might sound familiar to you, Carl, because we've had this previously. We've had this previously with the likes of Mia Yim, with Mercedes Martinez, Pete Dunne, Drew Gulak, and the like. And by all accounts, and specifically they've mentioned in the cases of Mia Yim, Keith Lee, and Mercedes Martinez, they registered the trademarks on their own outside of the company. So it makes you wonder, like, is this like a little battle WWE are having? And why, like, WWE clearly aren't pissed off about this because we're seeing Keith Lee on TV, we're seeing Mercedes Martinez on TV, we're seeing Reckoning on TV. Admittedly, that one makes a little bit of sense. Like, fine, we won't use your name then. But yeah, I find it interesting because in a world where WWE likes to own every part of them, they don't appear to have fought these trademarks very strongly. So
no, definitely, I think.
Not surprised.
Well, yeah. It's an interesting one, the fact that they are going out and trademarking them themselves, but still giving consent, I guess, for the WWE to use them. So I don't know what extra leverage that gives them as talent, but we've spoken quite a few times.
You would expect though that the idea for them would be when they walk away, they still own the trademarks, that name. Which you don't think WWE
obviously we talked about John Cena, the interview he gave, saying that they basically own his name, his likeness, everything about him. So well,
children.
I mean, he hasn't got any kids yet, so can you wonder why? But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a very interesting battle that they're trying to have at the minute. WWE, one of many. But yeah. I don't know. I don't know what their whole end goal is. They don't want any of their talent to have any benefits, make any money, do anything. Breathe, eat, drink. On WWE's fucking dollar, basically. So if they're employed by them, they own them. They own their ass, and yeah, strange, very strange.
Yeah, indeed. So it'd be interesting to see if we keep getting more of these denied claims and whether it actually has any sort of long-term effect for WWE. Anyway.
And the last one, I think, unless any more have snuck through, is another, bookended here by Kenny Omega. We start out with a quote from Kenny. We finish with a quote from Kenny. But this time it is about the new...
What is this, an episode of SmackDown?
All right, Roman. Well, I mean, fucking JR did call him the WWE champion the other day, so, anywho, we'll come on to that in the O-Shite. But, yeah, so Kenny has been interviewed about the AEW console game and give a little bit of an update, really. So, obviously, we saw a few snippets come out, a few months ago, around the fact that he's working with Ukes, as well as the developer of the N64 classics, like WrestleMania and No Mercy. So... basically, he's now said that he's really excited about what they're working on. They've got teams working around the clock every single day. He's always in contact with them, and they've got a really good chemistry going on. The biggest challenge they're facing is in terms of gameplay, because they still want to make something that feels like the old school No Mercy game, but is modern and updated to like today's kind of wrestling game standards. But the other challenge they've got is they want people playing the game to pick up and feel like they're playing Kenny Omega versus Rey Fenix, or feel like they're playing, Lance Archer versus, John Moxley. So, they're really trying to get it right, essentially, on on how you can actually deliver that game. But basically, he's still not given anything concrete, but he said, they've not had any huge setbacks. They're trying new things all the time. He might have an idea. Ukes might have an idea. The guy who did No Mercy might have an idea, and they try it. Some stuff they back out, some stuff they stick with, but ultimately they're tweaking, refining, and trying to get it to be the best game they possibly can. And they're basically saying that look for it potentially in early 2022. So it looks like it could be a Q1 release if all goes well.
Definitely a PS5 game, this.
Well, do you know what though? Looking at the graphics that we saw at the time, like that's got a lot of flack because a lot of people have said it looks very kind of cartoony in terms of its presentation and stuff like that. But I mean, who knows? The models can change and stuff like that.
It does tickle me, and I understand it's a real product, so they probably want it to feel as real as possible. But there is still a room for that. You know what I mean? It's like, look at Street Fighter in modern platforms. They haven't tried to go for realism at all. So why can't you have a video game? I know it's based on real people, but why can't you have a video game that doesn't have to be realistic?
Oh, exactly.
Like in terms of look.
It's one of them. Like for me,
everyone lost the shit over WWE Battlegrounds, and that's not fucking realistic at all.
Like for me, it's kind of neither here or there. I think they're probably doing what they should be doing, which is concentrating on getting the engine right and making it feel like a good game to play. And they can always refine, change the character models and stuff afterwards. It's more the engine that they're trying to get right. And Kenny came out and said as well that he basically tried to let us down gently early on and said that they're trying to get a core game that is as best it can be, and no bugs, anything like that goes out there. And then their objective is to continue to release updates, patches, new stars, anyone they sign, any pay-per-view updates, etc. Quickly, rapidly, and so on and so forth. So I think we're only going to get a really small roster at launch. Probably not even like updated attires and stuff necessarily. And they're going to continue to just churn out new releases, like super like quick updates and just have it constantly evolving. But yeah, it sounds good that they're not going to release a game that isn't ready and is full of glitches, and some of the stuff we've seen from 2K games lately have been awful. So if it does mean that it's going to take a bit of time, I'm all for it. But I was surprised to hear of the 2022 Q1 date because I thought it'd be later. But let's see.
Yeah, indeed. No, it's. I'm excited for it. I just because I feel like there's going to be nostalgia to this. I feel like it's going to be a game that reminds me of being a kid. So, one of the main reasons I want to play.
Absolutely. But I think that's it. We've gone through the news. All the news.
It's the Ringside Report. It's all
that
done.
Is it.
All the news. There's no more news. It's over.
There's nothing you don't know. Now we've filled you in 100%, and we'll be back after this awesome outro.
You're watching or listening
to A to the K.
The A to the K.
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 These guys are awesome. Check it out.
Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.